My name is Debbie LeBlanc, and I am joined today by my co-host, Beverly Hall Mon, and our guest, Dr. Frances Boulon, as a distinguished Puerto Rican psychologist and leading voice in the field of school psychology. Thank you for joining us, Educated Women Uplifted, Frances. I'd like to start by asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Okay, I was born and raised in San Juan, Puerto Rico, where I still live. But at different points in my life, I lived in New York, California, Pennsylvania. So I am acquainted with the U.S. in more ways than one. Um, I studied psychology at the University of Puerto Rico and worked in in counseling psychology and at the university, and later in industrial psychology at the Electric Power Authority, which sounds weird, but I was always connected to education because at the university I taught psychology. I was a counselor for students. And at the power company, I was a training manager. So I was in the field of educating technical people to do their work well. Uh, Eventually, I had the opportunity to study for a doctoral degree in school psychology at Temple University in Philadelphia. So when I retired from the electric company, I was I decided to retake my academic career and began teaching at the University of Puerto Rico first, and then expanding to other private universities. And it has been 25 years of my second career path, in which I have always been connected to education. I always remember when I was invited to apply for the doctoral program in school psychology, I had no idea that specialty was even existed. But somehow I said, "Oh well, let's give it a try." Just I like to try everything, even food, exotic food. So I'm constantly curious. So I fell in love with this opportunity. I liked education, I liked school all the time. But the fact that this specialty of school psychology would put me in contact with the children, with the teachers, with the school system, I thought it was such a wonderful opportunity to make a difference in the community. And I thought, well, this goes beyond. I had a great experience at the electric company. And of course, I did a lot of educating there. But the fact that within this new training that I was invited to study, I would be looking directly on school success and what makes some students strive and what can we do with those who are not doing well. I thought that was fascinating.
Thank you.
Well, Francis, I too enjoy food and enjoy moving and other well balanced. You talk about how well balanced you were and your many different locations and places where you lived. So, how do you think that your multicultural identity has shaped who you are today?
Well, I feel privileged to have had the opportunity to become bilingual from childhood because I had bilingual college educated parents. not wealthy, not a wealthy family, but when I started studying about the differences in opportunities in society, I thought, wow, not many people have the privilege of having college educated parents who early on told me to love their alma mater, which was the University of Puerto Rico. In fact, I've had 3 generations in that university. My children graduated from there too. So I think that I was. I didn't know it was special at the time, but I had a grandmother who only spoke English, and I had grandparents who only spoke Spanish, and I had cousins on either side. My grandmother, when I was a child, lived in the U.S. Virgin Islands, at a beautiful place that is a national park now, Trunk Bay. So early on, I was shifting from my Hispanic Puerto Rican background and my family, my English speaking family, which was part in the States and part in the Virgin Islands. And I didn't really know that was special until I was an adult. And I started studying in the university issues like racism. That was a topic of my master's thesis. And uh, there's a particular way racism works in Puerto Rico that it's different from other countries. So then, and of course, as a school psychologist, diversity is a big chunk of what we need to appreciate and be skillful at, because our clients, so to speak, the students and the communities we serve are culturally diverse, whether we are working in Puerto Rico or the States. I also have an international experience, because in the late 90s, I joined international psychology societies and have the chance to travel uh, to many countries in South and Central America, and we share experiences in education. Then there's migrants in Puerto Rico from different countries, and we work with those issues too. So multicultural awareness and issues have been a big part of my training and what I wish to keep researching and working on.
Frances, thank you for sharing that important information about the multiculturalism and the diversity, racism, all of those factors that seem to have influenced your work as an educator. Can you talk with us now about your early work at the University of Puerto Rico and what you learned from those experiences?
Well, my first professional work was at the College of Business Administration at the University of Puerto Rico, and I worked as a counselor, and I had to combine my skills related to helping people, students achieve their goals, and also to ensuring school success, and to make sure that they work towards their degrees successfully. So I got to know about issues that are important in educational settings, like curriculum, for instance, like rules and regulations for getting accredited. That kind of experience, I think, is an important background for what I later specialized in, that is school psychologist, because a school psychologist is, although a big part of our work is tending to social emotional issues and helping mental health and wellness in the whole system. I think we need to be aware of what the system goals and objectives are, and strategic planning and all that. The combination of psychological, educational, and management skills helped me. It gave me a background that was helpful during my doctoral studies and current work.
Great.
Well, Francis, you talked about the combination of psychology and management, and I'm just curious to know is um, what do you enjoy the most about mentoring future educators?
Oh, that's a that's a great topic. I think one of my greatest satisfactions in life is to experience the success that students that I got to know early on as undergraduates or beginning graduate school, to see that they are leaders in the field now, that they have doctoral degrees and are doing very important work in different venues. I I think there's no greater satisfaction than that for an educator, I mean, to be able to see that somehow I made a difference in the success that these now colleagues are having. One example is well, uh, I'll refer to her as Dr. Diaz. I knew her as an undergraduate, beginning her master's degree in clinical psychology, but she was interested in schools all the time. So first I gave her a general course of school psychology, and then I supervised her as a practitioner in a high school, in an elementary school, kept in touch with her through the years. And guess what? Now she is the mentor of a student I have in an internship. So I got to mentor her to make presentations at American Psychological Association. We traveled to Washington once to do that. So I have a couple of students now that are that have a poster accepted. So I think that the success of students that have looked up to me for in a very early stage of their careers, and now they are flourishing. I think that is a wonderful feeling, and it's really at the core of what makes us uh, so involved as educators. I think it's really one of the central issues of being a teacher.
And Francis, you couldn't have said that any better than supporting and mentoring teachers, and helping them. And I can't imagine the joy that you must feel in seeing that it comes full circle with all your support of individuals getting their master's and working through their doctoral programs and supervising them. So let's turn the table a little bit. We talk a lot in education about teacher burnout. And,
Yes.
and
Thinking
I
about that.
know, we all say we've seen it. What do you think are the most critical issues facing our educators today that are um, making us talk about that so much and try to come up with some ideas to change that?
Well, when I worked as an industrial psychologist, I got to know a lot about what uh, a workplace should do for their employees, and particularly for leadership, how leadership should be supportive, democratic, and be aware of employees' needs. And I am concerned because not all educational institutions follow the best practices that management tells us about. So, uh, as when I am in schools, and aside from mentoring my interns to work with the children, I also discuss the needs of other health professionals and teachers and administrators in schools, and how they are getting little support, and how much and what else can we do to assist them in taking care of themselves, or in getting insight on how their behavior impacts the children, and eventually will not give them, the satisfaction I was talking about. Because if you really are not satisfied with your situation, or are under a lot of pressure for administrative reasons. An example that's been discussed in Puerto Rico and in my groups in the States of school psychologists, I see that is like a lot of bureaucratic pressure, too many reports, uh, authoritarian bosses. Those are things that have no place in an educational institution, but unfortunately are part of our reality. And we can change just so much. So one of the areas that I have worked on is resilience, and that is an area in which we need to cultivate our own strengths and be supportive of each other, even in the face of great dangers, or great uh, unfortunate situations in our institutions. Um, I have a very important part of what when I teach the basic best practices in school psychologists is to be aware of educational institutions, to support continuing education and recognition for teachers and everybody who works in the school. And I make a point to contribute, to find the information that I can care, to establish support systems for everybody who works in the school, because we need to have a healthy workplace that helps us learn, and we need to be aware when our own needs are interfering with being effective, and we don't want that to happen. We want to prevent those situations and assist in any way we can for the success of the institution and of everyone, particularly the children or the students.
Right, right, right.
So, Francis, you're talking about the leadership being supportive and being aware, and the need for continuing education and to establish a support system. And you said you've led workshops on resilience and stress management and wellness. But what are some practical tips that an educator can start using just right away to help take care of themselves and to avoid that burnout?
Okay, I think the educator must be aware of cultivating a support system, having buddies close by that every day you show up to work and you feel you don't have the energy to face the children, you have a sounding board to see what's happening, and maybe your body might identify something that you are not fully aware of. You have to make a point of remembering the joy of teaching and learning. Remember the success stories, even if you're frustrated because, yeah, some test results didn't come the way you wanted. Let's look into it. Let's not take it personally. There's this reminds me, and that's the wellness issue. It's a personal responsibility, but I said before, you need a buddy to be sure that you get on track. You can't try to do this alone. It's tempting to do this alone. I think we all, professional women, we all have superwoman syndromes. You know, we want to do everything, and and we're supposed to help people. So how can we ask for help? Okay, that's an important skill. You need a buddy. You need to be uh, confident asking for help, and uh, make sure that you're not reacting emotionally uh, at a situation in school or with a particular student that has to do with your baggage and not necessarily the student's behavior. But for that, you have to have a wellness routine that includes close friends, buddies, mentors. Uh, uh, Stay in touch with your internship supervisor. Stay in touch with a student teacher professor that you particularly liked. I would also say join organizations that are related to what you want to achieve in life. And they might be professional organizations, or they might be related to hobbies. Like recently, I have known of some friends I knew from other venues that they are master gardeners. I didn't even know what that was, but the idea of nurturing plants, that's very related to education. And that kind of awareness that you need this recreational time, which it does not mean you're lazy. Because remember the superwoman syndrome, we have to be working all the time, and we have to get rid of that. We also need to have some downtime. And in that downtime, you may or may not develop more educational skills, but if you make sure you're feeling better with these strategies, you will find how that will make you a better educator. On a more institutional level, I think that we can be activists in working side by side with teacher groups to ask for equal pay for equal work, to health benefits, mental health benefits, which sometimes are not as available as they should be, and educational opportunities. One of my one of my titles when I was in industrial psychology was a manager at the motivation office. I was a little concerned about the title. Eventually, it changed to managerial development, but because motivation was taken by union leaders as manipulation. So, well, but In terms of all the motivational activities I worked on, there were different events to honor the engineers or the linemen or the secretary. You know which was the one that was most appreciated, and it didn't have a big budget? It was the program to support employees to complete degrees in areas in which they could aspire for better jobs within the company. And maybe they would get, I don't know, maybe they would get $200 per semester. There weren't great uh, amounts of money, but it had the message that the company cares about you. You are choosing this career and these courses, and we're going to support you to get your degree. And that was very successful. It was because that was something that all of the employees that took part in it have are grateful to this day. To this day, I hear about them sometimes, and that was a long time ago.
So Francis, in talking about that, you've talked wonderful information about the teachers and everything that they can do and having the buddies and a health and wellness. And you talked earlier about the bureaucratic system that our schools are often in. So could you give me
Mhm.
2 or 3 words of advice to the school leader who is the head of the school and hopefully having a supportive culture in that school? But what would you say to them to help their teachers combat education fatigue and parental concerns? And you've given some great ideas for the teachers. Could you give maybe 2 to a leader of a school?
The first important skill is to listen. Listen to everybody in your system, from the most senior teacher uh, to the to the guy or the lady who mops the floors. Listen to everybody who needs your guidance, and then be a role model for the joy of education. Don't lose uh, the opportunity to communicate enthusiasm and commitment to the ulterior goal of educating people, of making a difference in the community, and and then be very patient when things get tough. You will get a instructions from the directors above you that don't make sense. Well, try to take that with a grain of salt, and above all, don't take it out on the people that work with you. Just try get your own buddy so that uh, you can work out those issues. But as a leader, your role is to listen, to support, and to be a model for commitment, for optimism, and for what we all enjoy as educators, that the joy of teaching and learning. Never forget that.
Thank you. Oh, that
Thank you, Francis. That's very well put. To listen, be a role model, have that patience. And that would apply to educators as well as administrators. I'm interested to know if you have any particular advice for educators who are just starting their careers.
Oh, yes, that is an interesting group. I would tell them to never lose their initial ideas of what teaching is, but to be open to different roles and different experiences, and be aware of all the learning opportunities that come your way. Maybe the most uncomfortable problems you face might be the way to develop a skill in another specialty. Uh, Take some educational training, and I would say also, well, be sure to have your buddies, be sure to keep your friends from where you are not a teacher, so you get that perspective, but also join societies or clubs or community groups that share your common interests. And also, well, do something that has nothing to do with education. Do something you like gardening or quilting or sports or something that will give you another perspective and give you the opportunity to rewind and regroup and work on the stress of everyday life. Also, well, when we are young, we tend to lose perspective of the fact that things don't last forever. Don't take a don't work on decisions that affect the long run because you are upset in the short term. Have a long-term perspective, and for that you need support initially from friends, family, buddies, societies. But if you are really concerned that what is happening to you is making you work below your standards, get professional help, because it's not you have all the talent, but something is going on, and don't be afraid, don't be embarrassed. Above all, don't be embarrassed. That is something that we need to work on in our society. It is okay to ask for help. That will be a way to work through things that you might not be able to work on with friends and family, because who knows, someone in your network might be a part of your discomfort. So uh, that would be, well, you would do that when it's really necessary, but maybe in a preventive mode, you might feel a little discomfort and have a consultation with a professional, and maybe you will get some insight and carry on. But don't wait until you feel that the world is crashing around you and everything, and you can't see the sunlight, even if it's summer, even if the sun is out. Get professional help if you need it. And that's why I said before, institutions should have it available so that it should be easy to get an appointment when you need it. Mhm.
And that brings us back full circle, Frances, because you said that superwoman syndrome that we suffer from sometimes, that we don't ask for help, and that is not shameful, and it's smart to ask for help when you need it.
Yes, that's right. But we are so used to being the caretakers, and that's a woman issue, regardless of our profession, that we are the ones who take care of others, but who takes care of us? We need to be aware of our needs first, but if we're totally confused, well, let's go get help. And be proud that you did that.
Well, and in a final question for you, Frances, your life and career have been so impactful to so many. with your support first in industrial psychology and how you spoke about that and all the programs that you ran and how I can just hear your voice in that work and your attitude and your spirit. And I can only imagine the individuals that you impacted there are better, and that organization or organizations are better. You talked about your work as mentoring. You have written many articles, contributed many journals. You have worked with individuals in master's programs, doctor programs. Your career, you are incredibly impressive as a woman, as a leader, as an educator. What is the one thing that you are most proud of? And I can only imagine in your life, you might say your family, which I certainly appreciate. You love them so much, and they're so
Oh,
fantastic.
yes. Yes, we can't get into that. My two grown children, their partners, my three grandchildren. I am so blessed to have them. But I'm going to go to one topic I talked about in the beginning, which are my grandmothers. I said I had a grandmother who spoke only English and another who spoke only Spanish. And in 2018, I was so fortunate that a psychologist colleague, her name is Sheila Rodriguez Mareda, she invited her colleagues to write about grandmothers. So I decided to write about my two grandmothers and uh, and contrast how the differences in culture were really apparently very great, but in the background, they were so powerful women in their own way that even though I knew them for a short time, I lost them when I was very young adult. Um, I think that their influence is with me to this day. The book that in which my chapter is has 15 essays written by professional women in Puerto Rico, some teachers, some psychologists, some health educators, and the title is Roots and Wings. And that is what I think. Well, I'm very proud to have been a part of that project. And I think that the symbolism of the title is very powerful. What we look back into the powers of our grandmothers gave us wings to follow our paths. So I'm very proud of that. It's a small chapter in a small book that is not on the New York Times best-selling list. What I do, I give it away as gifts for my friends that inspire me. But I'm very proud of that achievement. And my other publications, I think, are Mm. I could describe them as boring. They're technical. They are about research and, only of interest to people studying psychology or testing or boring things like that.
Why am I not surprised that your answer about something you're most proud of, other than your beautiful, beautiful family, is something so personal, such as the love and joy that your grandmothers brought you? And the title is perfect. You know, roots
Yes.
with, when you look back to who you are and that you can talk about their influence. And I love how you describe them as being powerful. I don't even think about that as being powerful. I think about it being thoughtful and kind and
Oh,
inspirational
yes.
and all the things that you are, Frances. I'd like to say in closing, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been wonderful talking with you and hearing about your magnificent life and all that you have done for so many. You give so freely of yourself just to be that supportive person. And you've done it with such grace and wisdom and love that many, many women, myself included, have been beneficial. We have all benefited from that. So thank you for joining us today, sharing your story. We're excited to have learned so much from you and hope that you continue to prosper, go forth, and be yourself. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I think you are great women too. I have thoroughly enjoyed being your friend. I was honored to host Debbie in my homeland 4 years ago, and I invite Beverly to visit my beautiful country someday, soon.
Thank you. Thank you again.